Hello, good evening, welcome to Flory Models Live. Here we are with you 7:30 on the 23rd of April 2020, and as you can see we are joined by the legend, back by popular demand. Actually we have, because seriously I've got bombarded since the second you were on the show, what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago.
We've got Pramjit from Airfix Designer with us again to answer more of your questions. If you've got any sort of technically long-winded questions, can you go onto the forum and then under the Today Show bit, post them in there. A load of you have done it already, and that'll be a lot easier than us trying to read it off the actual chat, because obviously it jumps around a bit. So if it's anything more than 4 words, then post it in there, and it'll just be a lot easier to actually read it, and we can do it from there. What we're talking about, let me just show people. It's obviously in the web section. In Today, it's in here, and as you can see, just down below, some of you have posted your questions already down in there, which is fantastic. Okay, so that'll just make things a hell of a lot easier for when we're obviously asking questions over to Pramjit, because yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare in there, as we all know. But anyway, good evening lads as well. Are you right, Nathan? How's it going?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Look at that, tornadoes on his bench. Look,
It's I've got a bit of paint on it.
Ooh.
Not a lot, just the nose cone.
Very nice.
Get in there.
Very nice indeed. And Mr. Matt, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Sorry, I was just writing a message. Yeah, no, I'm good, mate, thank you. Yeah, very good.
Very good indeed.
Yeah, I'm going to sit here and enjoy the show. Be good. So it better be entertaining.
Very part of it. You can answer questions as well when they come through. Anyway, obviously Pramjit was on, say, 3 weeks ago, and we basically run out of time, because after we finished, as he was pointing out, he's got so much more to talk about and everything else like that. So we thought, well, there you go, look, good times. We can get part 2 in with this one, and we can have a further discussion with him about everything that's going on there. So say, if you have got any technical questions, post them up. We are live obviously in the chat room as always, guys, so if you need anything, shout up in there. But say longer technical questions, please put them in the forum, and it'll just be a lot easier to actually ask the questions just like that. So Pramjit, 3 weeks, how are you coping, and how's Airfix coping with the lockdown?
Not too bad. I think everyone's going through their own challenges personally, but yeah, I think the company's doing pretty well. Obviously, I think you guys saw it on Telegraph that sales are going pretty well in the lockdown. A lot of people are going back to their roots, buying a lot of Airfix kits. So yeah, I think not too bad from what I know. Yeah.
Very good. So the offices, I take it, there's nobody actually in the offices. Are you all sort of Skype meeting from home and carrying on work from home and all the various bits like that?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing. So yeah, I've been working from home. I think it's 5 weeks now since we've been working from home now, isn't it?
I know, yeah.
It's gone pretty quickly.
Would be great when we're all sat here at Christmas at this rate. Which, speaking of which, do you feel that, you know, obviously I know you can't talk about, you know, things obviously you don't know about within the company, but are you envisioning things being delayed because of all of this going on? And obviously as we're now sort of with India, I think they're going to be the next country to be hit, for want of not using probably the correct terminology for it. But with the outbreak spreading as it seems to be around that part of the world now, obviously we know that Airfix's injection moulding is done in India now.
Yeah.
Does this mean my Vulcan's going to be delayed? That's what I'm just asking, really, in a roundabout way.
To be honest, nothing's been confirmed or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if things were delayed, because obviously no one knows what's going on. Different countries are in different stages of this, but obviously it depends on the country and a lot of things. But to be honest, I haven't heard anything of anything being delayed within the company. If it probably is, it'll probably be made officially or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if things are delayed slightly, just because of the way things are going in the world.
Which are totally understandable at the moment. So my second little question to this one is, because to be honest, me and Matt's sales have gone extremely well as well, because again, the thing is, I think like most people, there you are, stuck at home, and it seems a good idea to dig out that kit, and then, you know, maybe guys have built it and thinking I'll buy a few bits and pieces as well whilst they're at it, because to be honest, we've been selling tons of paint, sanders, you know, all the consumable bits, as well as kits have been going through the roof, really, because everyone's got, well, nothing else to do. Has Airfix, do you know what's been a really good seller for you guys? What's been your top selling kit last month, or, you know, since the lockdown? Is it people going traditional, thinking I'll build a Spitfire because I built one when I was 7? Or have you noticed a different type of aircraft selling really well, or is it vehicles?
To be honest, I don't actually know about that, to be honest. But I think I would expect the Tiger Moth to be selling quite well, because obviously that's probably our last kit that went out during that was shipped before lockdown, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that one is going down quite well. I think obviously Matt was saying that it was sold out as well on the website.
Yeah, I must admit, the first lot we got in went straight away, and then we got the second lot in. I managed to skimmy a review sample out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sold that one, you know. Make sure you package up right.
Oh, is it sold, is it?
No, I might let you have.
Do you want me to seal it back up?
Get the eye now. So
I don't know actually which kit are selling well, but I would assume it will probably be Tiger Moth, to be honest, because normally whenever a kit is first released, that is usually jumps to number 1 in terms of the sales. So I would assume it will be Tiger Moth.
I have to say, I did the review of that today, which if people haven't seen it, just give them the shameless pluggy bit here. I did the review of it. It's all over social media. It's obviously on the site. You can buy the kit also at PM Models, clearly, and stuff like that. But it is a very, very nice kit right the way through. Again, how much were you involved with the design of this one, or?
No, not in the design. That was started by one of it was done by the same designer who done the MiG-17.
Right. Okay.
So if you guys do like the MiG-17, I'm pretty sure you like the Tiger Moth. I built the Tiger Moth, and it's quite a nice kit.
Mm-hmm. We'll have a look at that in a moment, because we're going to go over and have a look at your bit of website on the bench, where you can see some fantastic work with that one. I have to say, I've done the review of it, and I have got a short shot as always, because obviously that's what I get with this one. But one of the interesting things that took my eye on this one, and I should have thought of doing this earlier, but if I can just you humour me for a moment, because let me just pause that, and we want to just if you haven't seen the review, here it is. Okay, so hopefully you can see this.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just get rid of that. Sorry. So this is quite an interesting thing. Obviously in this kit is this way of actually, you've got, instead of having a fillet down here in the back section, you've elected to give a template and sand it off.
Yeah. So the reason was, well, to be honest, the main reason for that kind of ties in with the previous question as well. Is that I think someone was saying, how many versions of different stuff you can get out of a kit in the same kit. One thing that we try not to do because of that is you compromise the kit. You compromise the kit, and obviously that is a compromise. So we're compromising that version for another version, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The reason why it's done is because ideally you would give 2 different fuselages, but that would increase your cost. So it's either we lose out money, as in our margins are lower, or you pass on that price to the customer. The reason done for that is, I think, because so that you don't have you can do it as a separate part, but then you'll obviously have a seam line and everything like that.
Absolutely, and I think that's, you know, what I was going to say to you. What I quite like about this is that obviously this, I think, is a little bit unkind to it, because it looks like you're taking out a huge chunk out of it, but actually the reality is when you see your side view you've done over here, you can see it's literally just, you're almost just taking the thickness of the plastic off to be able to put this forward part of the sort of tail system on top of it. And I must admit, when I first saw it, I was quite taken aback, because I was thinking, that's weird. I've never seen the bit where you would physically cut away like that to go in. But I think when you get an idea that it's probably the thickness of the plastic. So to put a fillet in as that, in from a clean-up point of view and keeping it very nice for, we're assuming, another version coming down the line that doesn't have this extended bit in there, it's actually quite an ingenious way of doing it, you know, to actually have a template system that you put on there. and then you do it, because we have seen, I don't know about Airfix, but we've seen other manufacturers tell you to take out 1 millimeter or 1.2 millimeters of depth to allow for it, and trying to do that when you're in there with a file is very difficult. But luckily in that kit you have got that nice little template which goes over the top, you seat it there and then just sand it to that thing, and then you obviously by putting the tail on, as I say, I haven't seen something like that in that type of kit especially for it. So I did think that's quite an ingenious way, because again, like you were saying, the other option is you have got that in there naturally, and to put a bit on top as a fillet going in there, I think would compromise the kit, you know, short of putting a different tail on it, and nobody wants a tail brake back there and plug it in sections and things like that. So when I saw that, I did actually think that's quite an ingenious little device to put in there to help the modeler, you know, especially if you are not keen about getting in there with a knife and trying to cut it out yourself and all the rest of it from the inside out, perhaps. And traditionally you might have had that situation where they've prescribed an area internally into the fuselage half, so you chop it out. But again, it's when you're just talking, I don't know what that is in mil, the thickness of it, but it's not a lot you're actually removing. I did think it's quite an ingenious way of doing it, and I did like that in there. But that said, I must admit I'm quite a fan of that kit anyway. Full little engine in there, which is gorgeous, the way you've got the side opening with it in. So, you know, it's basic, but it's very, very nice. And again, if you wanted to, you could detail it up a little bit more. I thought that was a very nice touch. And again, with the drop down doors onto it as well, and the other bits in there, actually I thought, considering when you look at it on the box, you assume, I think old school, it'd be a couple of fuselage halves, couple of seats, you know, spinner on the front, wings on, job done. But actually it's a very detailed kit. You know, and I know it's 1/48 scale, but it's a very small plane, so there's a hell of a lot going in an 18 quid kit, you know. So I think it's a little gem of a kit. Like I was saying, I was quite taken when doing the review, because it was the first time I'd actually seen it, going through it and seeing all the parts down in there. It's a beautiful little kit from a bygone era of aviation, and it's really nice to have one to come out with it like that. And then the highlight for me, as we were talking about before we came on air, was the decals. You know, the way that you're using cartograph decals instead of those god-awful ones from 10 years ago, which were, you know, like night and day. They are beautifully done, nice solid colour right the way through. Again, it just absolutely makes that kit. It is a fantastic job. So kudos to you guys at Airfix for that one. I'm a massive fan of it, to be honest.
Cheers. I know a lot of research went into that, into getting the shape right and everything like that. A lot of research, because obviously, as you guys know, de Havilland are quite known for not having one aircraft exactly the same.
Yeah.
A lot of things are different, and a lot of research went into getting the dihedral right. Is slightly different. That front nose cowling. Obviously, I wasn't involved in it, but I've seen the guys' amount of time and they put into it, and that was quite a big team effort in trying to get a lot of that right and stuff like that. And I'll definitely say that is a very accurate Tiger Moth, probably the most accurate one on them. Just because the amount of research went into it, trying to get stuff right, the shape right, and just getting it all correct.
I think also one of the things is, and it's one of those mindset things that when you obviously, you know, because it's Airfix, you always think there's probably a compromise in there. I don't know why, but that shows it now, the way that Airfix have actually come along now, that you've got a almost perfect representation of, instead of it being compromised through whatever reasons, that is one of those kits now that you're doing that's coming down the line, which is fully detailed inside and out. No ejector pins inside the cockpit either, which I thought was another nice touch, because you have got the framework and all the stuff in there. They're everywhere else, but they're not where you can see, which is really nice touch as well. So actually it's one of those ones where you're looking at it, going through as a reviewer, I can't even find a fault with it. Apart from my prop, I had a short shot, but you know. But apart from that, I have to say it was a beautiful one. And for people who are wondering about your web building skills as well, we can show them. Hold on, because this is actually your one of it, which we'll go back to your other bit about the Spitfire, because you can talk us all through that. But if you haven't seen this, because we will plug it for him, this is Airfix's workbench series. You can't find it on their website for love nor money. They need to sort that, clearly. But obviously, you did this month's one, or was it last month's, whichever what it was now. And this is it. This is your model.
Yeah.
Which you're saying was your first ever job with rigging as well.
Yeah. I had a bit of problem with Kicker as well, because I done a clear coat with Johnson's Clear on the top part because that was the only part with the decal, and then I didn't put it on the bottom. And I put a bit of kicker on there, and it kind of ate through it, but it didn't eat through the part with the clear on there. So that was my first experience. I remember you guys always talking about it for years. Oh, the kicker always eats through the paint and stuff like that. And I was like, I never had that, and then I get it on that, but it's on the underneath, so you don't really see it that much.
Don't tell them that; they'll go looking for it. But I have to say that's a beautiful, and that just shows it even better than obviously I can do from a reviewing point of view. Because as I say, you see the pictures like there, and it does, and it just shows those decals. You know, because they just, I would say it's night and day between you and the old ones, because they were truly awful. But you say even the white ones, it's amazing how good they are and how solid they are, the way those go down as well. So it absolutely shows it on that one.
It's quite nice actually. First time I've done a kit where you've just done it and then hardly done any weathering to it. I think the only thing I did was put a panel line wash, and that was it. And I kind of know what you mean by when you've done the Gladiator, a couple of your previous build. Like, it's just nice doing a kit where you just build it and then don't have to spend so much time weathering it. You kind of got like a nice finished article there. It's quite nice, and that's how it is in real life as well. They're not overly weathered or anything like that. It's just how it is.
And that was the thing as well, like when I did the Gladiator, I had every intent to weather it, but actually when you get that sort of that nice, say, dope lemon and sort of silver effect onto it and a little bit of colour, your heart won't let you, because you're thinking it looks gorgeous as it is, that nice clean. But as I say, you know, with those ones especially, they were kept relatively clean and smart anyway, so you wouldn't want to go round and weather them up, you know, over the top, because they're beautiful. But that's a gorgeous model. Kudos on that one. So if you are thinking of one, I highly recommend this kit. It is an absolute gorgeous. Very, very nice indeed. Right, okay, what are we on? I'm acutely aware at 8 o'clock we've all got to clap. So otherwise we'll get told off for not clapping. But we can get a couple of questions in. Okay, so starting off with, David says, design process question. Why do some kit manufacturers say to paint parts that will get covered up by other parts anyway and never be seen?
A lot of our stuff probably isn't like that now, but I would probably say the person, from speaking from experience, I'll probably say, or if it hasn't happened on our, I don't think it has happened on any of our kits, is that normally maybe the person who's been giving the color call outs probably hasn't built the kit and probably hasn't realized, oh, if you don't, I'm giving a color call out to something that you won't actually see. That makes sense. That's the only thing I can think of. And then some bits that you do see might not have a color call out. I do find that on some other manufacturer kits, and I think that's the only logical thing I can think of, is that the person whoever might be calling out the color probably has never built the kit, so they won't obviously know.
No, and it might be also, when I first read that one, it could be the situation that somebody's done some research and they just know it's that colour for whatever reason, so they've written it down, even though it can't be seen, it's going to get covered up. But if they've seen it on the real thing, for instance, of references, and he's made a note of it, and it's probably found its way in that way, you know. So
it's like doing the inner colour of a fuselage. It's like, what's the point of doing the inner colour of a fuselage if you're going to put it all together? But it is like how you're saying, that is the colour of it. So
that's it. So somebody might have stuck their head in there and had a look and knows it's that colour and thought they'd put it down. Anyway, how do you decide where to place the sprue gates? Is this done manually in CAD or AutoCAD, or does a computer algorithm figure this out?
Okay, this is quite a good topic actually. So when we send it off to the toolmaker, what we normally do is do an Excel document, and we kind of break up the parts and roughly how we want it. So we try and break up the big parts to the small parts. And then if you want to go a bit more detailed, say, for example, you've got, let's say, for example, Hellcat. You want to put the engine parts on a frame, on a certain frame, and then maybe the wing on a frame, and then the fuselage on a frame. It's trying to break it up roughly how you think you're going to build it. It depends on the size of kit as well. And then that goes off to the tool maker, and then they will do their tool drawings and stuff like that. So again, I'll bring this over when I come over, because it's quite hard to see on screen, but they give you a tool drawing. We see it as a, I can't remember what, it's a drawing file, or you can read it as a look at it as a PDF, and it's quite a colourful thing. So it shows you all the like watermarks, not watermarks, the water flow points. We don't really need to worry too much about that, but they do have it on there. And then what they have is the frame, and then they have the parts broken up roughly in how. So we give them a frame size actually. Sorry. Saying this is because obviously for the box size, so before it's actually gone off, you kind of know what box size it's going to be.
Yeah.
So you need the frames to fit into that, and the frames are broken up into the current their sizes. So if you have different versions and stuff like that, you will have. So for example, like a trying to think of which one. If you've got certain parts that are coming, or additional parts that are coming on a kit, and they come out in a few years' time, you normally have that frame on a separate sprue.
Yeah.
And then regarding the feed gates and everything, they put the feed gates on roughly where they think is right, and then you change it, go back to them and change it and stuff like that, and then do it. It's like a back and forth process, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the toolmaker gives it to you, all the feed gates of where they go on the part, and then we kind of go through it and see what's sensible, what's not, and it's sort of like a back and forth process. It probably goes back and forth about 3-4 times, roughly, until you're happy with it, and then you sign that off, and then that's when it goes into tooling.
Right.
You can get most feed gates go on the side, isn't it? I think those are the most standard feed gates, but you also get feed gates where you get slightly on the bottom. Have you seen that? You must have seen those ones.
Yeah.
I haven't got anything as an example to show, but you also get those ones as well. Sometimes we specify that because it will be easier for part cleanup or part join and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then for feed gates, we try and avoid like panel lines and stuff like that, but toolmaker more or less knows to try and avoid that. For example, a wing. If it's going on the edge of a wing, they will know to avoid the panel lines and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
very good. Excellent. So I must admit, like, there's one question I was going to talk to you about, probably when you hear more at depth, is that obviously for wings, especially trailing edges, they're very thin. So to injection mold onto them this way, or as you say, having the bottom ones on, you know, I was going to say to you, at what point do you decide? Because some manufacturers now just have the fuselages like it as well, and have gone more down that route. Yeah, as I say, with the Airfix ones, it tends to be some and some. I didn't know if at some point it's one of those ones where it's a little bit more expensive to have them coming in from underneath.
No, it's actually it's just
you
just kind of decide roughly of how you think is best. To be honest, I mean, to be honest, I don't really like the underside ones just because the way you got to cut it off and then the cleanup, you can always leave a little dip.
Yeah,
that makes sense. But if you're doing it on the other side, you will see a dip, but it's not. You can leave a dip when you sand it away, but it's not noticeable. But if, for example, if you have those side ejector, those underside feed gates on a fuselage half, and you sort of sand away, you'll know it because you'll have quite a bit. You will have
because I must admit, Bandai, classic example, they use it a hell of a lot. You know, pretty much it's their standard thing, the way they do it all, because they, you know, as you say, rightly or wrongly, believe it's because it gives a better cleanup. You know, because obviously it's not going to intrude into the part itself because it's all then cleanup coming in. But again, I sometimes think if you look at the Japanese way of modelling, they don't tend to cut off the sprue like we do in the West even. They tend to do this thing where they cut close but not right up to it and then clean up to the part, where in the West I think we're more akin to cutting as close as you possibly can to minimise cleanup. You know, as well. That's why if you look at, I think like Nathan will probably know this one, with God's Hands cutters and the other types of nippers, they specify leaving a gap between the actual part and where you cut it so you can clean up, or come back in with a second cut closer so you're more accurate to it, you know. But again, I think that sometimes you get the differences between the sort of Japanese way of modelling, which is very much akin to scrape cleaning and things like that as well. Where over in the West we're more into sanding it and getting the sanders out and buffing the hell out of it and stuff like that. So I didn't know if some way, you know, that's a thing from the Western type way, and the ones in the
Yeah.
Far East, the way of just modelling, they have certain different ones. But that said, when I did the review of that, and I pointed out in the review, some of the sprue gates are absolutely tiny. I've never seen them that
Yeah,
small.
that's all. Yeah, they are really, really
You
small.
know, they are
It's
incredibly
isn't it?
fine onto those small parts as well. Whereas normally, you know, as you say, certain manufacturers have got it down to a fine art. They do go a lot smaller. Other ones are quite big and chunky, you know. But as I say, on that one, they do tend to be incredibly fine. I don't think I've seen an Airfix kit with them that fine onto a smaller part on that one. But again, it's a nice little touch and shows the evolution, you know, or how it's evolving with you guys obviously working with tool manufacturers and stuff. Which is my other quick question then. Your tooling people, which are in China now, have you been working with them a long time? Are they a newer company? Or new to you, I should say, to working from? Or have you been working for them with years?
From what I know, because obviously I've only been working here for just under 2 years, I think we've been working with them for a while, to be honest.
Yeah, because it just seems to be their tooling seems to be, I don't know, better. This is the only word I can think of. It seems to be crisper, sharper. The sprue gates seem to be getting smaller as well, but that may be just because technology is evolving and injection molding is evolving and better equipment. So but I didn't know if you changed it at some point to a different tooling company, and that's why it's a slight difference in them.
No, more or less the same company, but it's probably their understanding of what we want as well.
Yeah.
I mean, when you work for a company for a while, their understanding and your understanding of each other works a lot more better.
Yeah.
Due to you kind of know what each other want and what you kind of expect, and that kind of builds on a good working relationship, to be honest.
Very good. Excellent. Okay, so okay, what criteria does Airfix consider when deciding what scale a model kit will become?
Oh, that kind of just depends on what's out there, to be honest.
Subject matter, I suppose, as well, isn't it? So you got your standard scales for things.
Because we only do like 1/48th, 1/72nd, 1/24th, but it depends on the subject. So, for example, say you got a subject chosen, and you decide what scale. Most likely is 1/72nd. That's our our main scale that we do. But it also depends on if there's already a good 1/72nd scale kit off the kit you're already doing. There's no point in bringing that out. And then you see maybe is there a good 1/48th one out there, and if there isn't, then you go to 1/48th. It just depends. You try not to do something that a manufacturer has already recently done, or pretty close to it anyway, and you kind of know what's going to sell well. But yeah, it just kind of depends on what's already out there, to be honest. That's probably the main answer to that one. What's already out.
Very nice. Okay, how do you decide how many parts are in a particular area of a model will be composed of? For example, do you decide if a wing will be composed of 2 parts or 5 parts?
Kind of goes back to your question as well. You guys kind of like myth busted that sort of thing. Like, do we build kits for a particular number
just for
of
a part
parts?
count, or for
No, we don't do that. I mean, like, to be honest, our main aim is to make a kit with as least parts as possible.
Yeah,
that's the main aim. There's no point in making a kit with loads of parts just for the sake of doing it with parts. But the main thing is, depending on how complicated the part is and how much detail you want to get out of it, that kind of it depends on how many parts that will be. I mean, like, for example, the Buccaneer. It's not the most traditional sort of kit that goes together, where you have fuselage in the center, like that sort of long fuselage in the wings and all that. It's quite different, isn't it? Because you have the 2 wings that come join top to bottom, and then you have the rear and the front section coming together. That's just shape of the aircraft, to be honest. That's the best way to mold it.
Right, I'll be back in a moment. I did promise.
Everyone clap. It's clap time. Blow an air horn. That's it. Very good. But yes, I can't clap loudly purely because we blow the mic as always. Thank you, sweets. I don't know where she is.
You might hear fireworks. Some guy's been doing fireworks for the past couple of weeks, and you might hear fireworks.
Yeah, that's it. We get quite a lot around here as well. The trucks on the estate last week were blowing their horns as well. So I must admit, it's quite nice because Tams works in A&E in Plymouth, and they have the entire Devon and Cornwall police outside the front of this.
Oh,
So
nice.
they were saying, you know, there's no police anywhere else because they literally all had their arm response, all the riot vans, the lot, and they all had their sirens going and all the bits and pieces as well. She was quite
Yeah.
choked up after that, so bless her.
Yeah, I can hear the fireworks. Can you hear it?
Yeah. Bless. That everyone's nipped out.
Everyone's
That's
gone.
it. It's alright till they set something afire because it's been dry recently.
Yeah, I think they're saying it's going to be quite hot this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a nice weekend.
To be honest, it's quite hot right now.
I must admit it's been lovely today. We took the dogs out earlier and gave them a good old walk. That's it. Ed says he'd like to thank you for your time for doing this as well.
Oh no, that's fine. That's... Happy to
God,
Jasper,
bagpipes.
finished.
That's it.
Cool.
I think she's upstairs, out the window upstairs. I can hear her above me. It's funny because our next door neighbour's a nurse as well. She's just retired.
Yeah.
So,
They've not called her back then.
no, well, she's a radiologist, you see, so that side they're pretty well covered.
Right.
Crikey, they're on a full old thing out there today.
Got a full-on bang going out on front of ours.
Have you?
Yeah. I think Lydia enjoyed it with a biscuit tin and wooden spoon.
That's it. You know what's going to happen? Everyone's frying pan's going to be dented and your pots.
Yeah. I think what to do. Plate smashing, like doing grease.
Yeah, that's it.
Nuts out there. Oh, we're back.
Yes. Yeah, we should have run a commercial at that point. I've never done it. I want to try it. Run out of time for a commercial break. I don't even know how it works. I've just seen it says a button. It says add an advert. No, we'll get a really inappropriate one or something. Come on, you know.
Yeah, probably.
Right. Okay. Is everyone back? Because they all were going from here as well, saying, right, back in a minute. Right. I think we're all good.
Good to carry on.
Okay. So, David said, can you expand on my question about how many parts? We covered it literally, to be honest, on the last time Panjit was in. I asked about it because it was one of the questions that had been asked a lot. So we explained it fully on there that no, we've debunked it now, myth busted it, that they don't call them 2,000 parts just for the sake of it. You know, 8-sided box just to get, you know, things in
It's
there.
super hard to find a manufacturer, even now sometimes as well, like to find what the part count is. Because I was doing the Yamato, the new tool one that you were talking about, and I'm doing that, and I found out, I think it's on their website, that it's over 1,500 parts. And I don't know whether that's including photo etch or not, but even then, trying to find stuff like that is, I mean, like they say over 1,500 parts, I would assume is quite close, but that could be 2,000 parts.
Yeah.
When
I
you
think,
say-
you know, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where we spoke about it about before. We'll just have a quick recap, but with injection molding, and obviously when you're talking things like slip molding and stuff like that, you know, a multi-part injection molding especially, 20 years ago, you had to make it out of 10 parts because you couldn't do it because everything was very much one-dimensional. You had your face side and that was it. But now, through, you know, injection molding with all these very clever things that all come in from different angles, you can produce, although, like we did discuss, very expensively, a part in one that traditionally 20 years ago would have been made up of 10 parts, purely because injection molding is a lot better than it was back then. But as I say, now we're looking at things being slip molded especially and stuff like that, whereas traditionally that would always be a couple of parts. Now you can get away with it doing it in one. The trouble you always get with these kits though, and you do see them now, is that you do always get little seams, and I know because I seem to pick on them, but it's not deliberate, but Kitty Hawk especially, they tend to come in obviously, and you know, when it's doing it and then it's releasing it, you're always going to get that seam line that you are going to have to sand out, where traditionally that would have been 10 years ago or 20 years ago a join, you know, but now through the way they do it, they can get them right down. Right, okay, so next one is from, sorry, I'm on the wrong mouse, got everything open here. Alan says, do you know how much the planned release dates have been affected of this year's releases. All right, so this is basically what we were talking about with India now going into lockdown.
Yeah.
We sort of covered that. My particular interest is in the re-release of the Concorde and the 1/24th scale BF 109.
So yeah, sort of same sort of answer from before, isn't it? Nothing I know of that has been delayed, but I wouldn't be surprised if stuff are delayed, to be honest, just because of obviously the current predicament of the world.
Absolutely. Okay, so one from Kev. He says, with the 40th anniversary of the Falklands War coming up in 2022, God, isn't it? Make you feel old when that's 40 years. Would a 1/48 scale model of a Chinook Bravo November be possible, as it's been involved in every conflict since the Falklands War, even Afghanistan? And would it tie in with the rest of Airfix's Afghanistan collection?
Well, I'll pass that on to the people who decide and then let them. Traditionally, I think quite a lot of people do ask why we don't do helicopters. I think you guys were saying it as well. The Puma, I believe it is. Wessex and all that. I think just generally from a history point of view, helicopters don't just sell as well as aircraft.
Yes.
And you just say if you know an aircraft is going to sell more than a helicopter, or I'm just talking generically, not specific subjects, then you're going to go do that. But it's not like we don't do helicopters or anything like that. It's just one of those things that the list for probably aircraft is probably a bit more higher and more important than the helicopters. From what I've heard from some guys in the design team who have designed helicopters, helicopters aren't very symmetrical. So if you're doing CAD for aircraft, what you normally do is do the port side first. When you're designing, you do all of that, and then you mirror everything across onto, so you get the starboard, and that saves you doing twice as much work. So what you do is on the CAD side is that you do as much detail as you can before. There are little things that are on one side or not the other, but the main gist of it is the shape and everything is more or less identical. With helicopters, they're not identical, so it's like twice as much work, if that makes sense. From what I've heard as a design point of view, that's not saying that's the reason why we don't do it, but that's just an interesting little fact for you guys that not a lot of helicopters are symmetrical. There's quite a big difference where you've got to like sort of double up your work, if that makes sense. But
sorry, Frankie, I think the other thing you touched on as well, and we only was on last time, is the Chinook's still in service, and Airfix don't do stuff that's in service.
Well, it's not that we don't
really.
Yeah, to be honest, it's not that we don't do. Well, yeah, we don't really do stuff in service, mainly because again, it just doesn't sell as well as something that's not. I mean, our market is slightly of people who, like yourselves, you guys have seen stuff like Tornado's been flying, like the Cold War era jets and like Buccaneers and Phantoms and stuff like that. So you have like sort of an emotional attachment to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's
just saying we're old.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
He's being polite. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. They just sell well. I mean, like, to be honest, like World War II stuff is like the biggest seller. Like that era of stuff. I mean, like, to be honest, none of us were around during the Second World War, but it's like everyone still buys those sort of stuff. Just because, and obviously I can't speak for other manufacturers in terms of their sales and all that, but if I don't know how well their modern kits sell compared to like older stuffs. It's just one of those things I won't know, but I would assume that their older stuff sells better than their modern stuff, and that's just how the market is. Maybe that will change, and then eventually in like 10, 15, 20 years, slightly more modern stuff will become more vintage, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
that will probably be more desirable by the market. But yeah, it's just one of those things that these older stuff like World War II aircraft and stuff like that just sell better. That's all it is.
Definitely. I know a couple of stories about Bravo November, because obviously we know a couple of aircrew who are members of the site as well, and like they said, it was like the golden rule not to break it. With Bravo November, it was almost like the holy grail. So every time the crews took it up, it was that thing: do not break it. because it's you know, it was like people didn't like it. It's a bit like certain cars. You don't want to drive it because you don't want to scratch it. Well, that was the equivalent with Bravo November, is because the crews literally were like always warned, do not break it.
I'll definitely pass it on anyway. I mean, like, to be honest, I wouldn't mind doing a Chinook. I remember I was about 5-6 years ago, I really wanted to do a Chinook. Chinook or Chinook, however you want to pronounce it. But
Yeah,
I think the artillery one is the only 1/48 scale one out there.
Yeah, when obviously it's rebuilt boxed by Revell, wasn't it, for a while as well? So we got that.
Yeah, that's quite an old kit as well.
But
And then the thing is as well is that I know a lot of people like 1/35 scale helicopters. So it's like, oh, you do a 1/48 scale Chinook and you might upset quite a few people saying, oh, you're doing it in the wrong scale. It should be 1/35.
yeah, but then you're into trumpeters zone because they did the A, but they didn't, you know, and all the ones with that as well. But again, 72nd might be quite a nice one to do, to be honest. But then clearly, I'm just talking because I've just thought of it. If you go through your list, obviously the one you're missing in 72nd is a new Jag. So will we be seeing that soon?
I'll pass
Because thinking about it, you've done now, when you go through the little list of them, you've done the Harrier fleet very nicely, but again, you've stayed away from the modern ones, so like the GR7s and 9 series, but you know, the other ones are all there, and as I say, I really love the FRS1 was a great kit, and the FA2, and then I'll say I've done the GR3 and all the rest of them. And obviously you've done the Lightning, which is another nice one in 72nd, and now we've seen the Phantom, we've seen the Buccaneer. So clearly the Jag will be the next obvious choice. And now the Tornado's out of service, we could see a nice 72nd Tornado now. You'd be fine.
Yeah. Well, I'll pass on.
Because that'll complete the series then very nicely then. You've got all the strike, you've got the can openers in there. It'd be very nice to do that one.
Yeah.
So,
To be honest, I'm actually super surprised by how many Tornado questions you guys get.
to be honest, I think until a couple of weeks ago, we didn't realise how popular it was going to be either. From a sales point of view, that was amazing. And but the amount of people building them on the forum and talking about it and planning on building it as well, I honestly never realised the Tornado was quite as, you know, sort of well respected like that, as you know, people waiting for a good kit to come along and do it. And say thanks to Nate giving us a run through on his. Now it's sort of had a sort of second wind with it all.
I mean, like every day, someone's asked a Tornado question in one form or the other. Because I've been watching your shows every day, and I was like, at one point, someone's asked at least one Tornado question.
Yeah, that on RLM 83. But anyway, go on, Matt. You were saying?
Move along. I was going back to the Jag. Like you touched on. I think, to be honest with you, it is due a decent kit. Definitely an updated kit of a Jag.
What scale would you say?
Even in 72nd, because you got the Italian one, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll pass that on to the guys.
Because I mean, what you've got an old Azagao one, haven't you? And you've got an old Italeri one. I think that's it for the Jags.
That's
Definitely 72nd. I mean, you had a 48th one out at one point, which is obviously a bit long in the tooth now. And then there's the Kitty Hawk one, but 72nd, yeah, it's your scale. It's Airfix's scale, and I think it'd be.
It would suit really nice in the range, especially because now you've done the Buccaneer. You know, that just ties in with the Buccaneer, same mirror, same, you know, sort of technology of everything in those days. So, yeah, I think it'd be a nice one to go along with. And so by the time you've done through that one, it'd be Tornado.
GR1, GR3, whichever, you've got a couple of...
Yeah, and obviously you've just got your T-Series, which is the two-seater. Just chop a new front on it.
I'll pass on.
Yeah.
If anyone who is watching, just shout out good product that we can do, and I'll pass it on. Obviously, I'm not going to say we're going to do it or we are in the process of doing it, but if you guys have a recommendation, then just shout out, put it on the forum or something. Then I'll pass that on.
Because that actually just answered a question that somebody put on the forum about do you take into account what people, obviously we discussed this when we were last on, at Telford, and you have your little, people can write down what kits they want and all that lot, and then do you, because we said, you just chuck it in the bin when you've done and just do what you want anyway, but, just to please the public. But somebody has asked these, like, do you take in recommendations of, I think you probably did with the Vulcan, because you must have had that much questions every year from God knows when you're going to go new to Vulcan, when you're going to, you know what I mean? And obviously now
on that basis where you give the recommendations, we have them at all shows. I think Telford is obviously the biggest one that we get the most But if you ask 100, if you get like 100 forms, you'll get like 100 different answers.
Yes.
But most of the answers that we get are the ones that we kind of expect. There's nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, like if we get 100 of them and then 99 of them say Jaguar, then I'm pretty sure that they'll get pushed up. That I'm sure. But that never is the case. You always get 100 different answers. But it is more or less a thing that you kind of know what you're kind of expecting. It's not like a big surprise of what people recommend, if that makes sense.
Yes, I understand. Yeah. I think, to be honest with you, though, I think it's nice that you do it, because at least then it does show that you are interested in what the public would like to see, rather than, you know, just putting your head in the sand and just, right, we'll do this, what we want to do, and hope it sell kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's the most easiest market research. Why don't you just go ask?
Yeah, exactly.
You have, and also it shows them that it's captive audience as well. It's not like you're doing a straw poll to anybody. They're all modelers. They're all your customers. So absolutely, definitely. Yeah. Okay, Warren says, hi all, just received his first batch. Sorry, different question. Hataka Orange Line paints, thanks to the PM store. And also he's got some Mr. Cola leveling thinners. Quick question, what should I start off with a thinning ratio? Never used lacquers before.
50-50.
50-50, 60-40.
Yeah. Start is 50-50.
Start in 50-50 and then just listen to your airbrush. See if it's sanding, struggling. If it's struggling, just add more thinner.
Go about 60%. Yeah, I think 60% is a sweet spot for me. 60-70%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I must admit, I do tend to do with most attackers now. It's always slightly more on the thinner side. So I'm always probably, like Matt was saying, really just going to go 60% thinners, 40% the paint, low air pressure, turn it right down. And you'd be surprised how close you can get and how much little paint you'll use. You know, it does go a long way. That's the nice thing, but it's got good coverage.
Yeah, I've been slightly changing my spray pattern recently. Is that I've been doing a lot more thinner paint coats and then more of them just to get a smoother finish. But that's only if I can be bothered, to be honest.
If you do the quick job.
Yeah.
But saying that, I think that's the joy with lacquer paints, that you can go a lot thinner where you can't with acrylics.
Yeah.
Because I found that painting that in acrylics is such a different ball game to painting again from getting used to doing lacquers. It's it's retraining yourself that your paint's a bit thicker, and it's
We always do a neat coat of self-leveling thinner as well over the paint just after I finished as well, just to let it eat in and then get a slightly smoother finish. I sort of do that quite a lot now. I seem to be going through quite a lot of self-leveling thinner now.
To be honest with you, everybody else does the amount we've sold.
Yeah, that's it. I would think people are bathing in it.
About 2-3 bottles already since January.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is those things. Right, okay. Lauren says, hi everybody, a quick question. Many models are the same price range for Airfix, like Revel has the €29.95, etc. Does that mean that you have the same kind of budget for each project model as it is evenly spread on different tasks such as research, CAD modelling, packaging, etc.? Thanks.
So it sort of goes on a previous thing. The main cost that we have to make up money back on is tooling. That is where most of the bulk, and our tooling, I would assume, is roughly, I think you guys know as well, it is roughly similar sort of quality or what you guys can kind of expect. I mean, like, I know Tamiya, say for example, if we paid £100 for tooling, I know Tamiya will probably pay like £200, which is double the price. And obviously that kind of reflects in their kit price as well. So that's sort of the thing. I wouldn't say, it's probably their tooling cost is very similar to ours, and that's where we're trying to make our money back on, to be honest. I'm just going to switch on my light. Look, it's a bit dark in here as well.
Yeah, that's all right, man. Yeah, that's good. The evenings are changing.
The nights are drawing in.
That's it.
Or not.
But yeah, that is probably our main thing as well. I mean, like, where I think Revel is probably our closest competitor in terms of quality and pricing. Yeah, the main cost is trying to make our money back from tooling. I can't obviously speak on their side.
I think Matt was smirking there. I think he would put you slightly higher than Revel, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think you're on a whole different level, mate.
Yeah, I have to say that as well. I wouldn't put yourself with Revel. I think you're doing a lot better than Revel.
I think people forget, like customers and stuff, that Airfix is a business. You've got to make money.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people forget that. At the end of the day, you are there to make money, to move your business forward and blah, 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 and all that lot. It's same from our side of it as well. It's, for people who are in it like hobby-wise and stuff like that, and anybody running their own business, I think that they'll know it. Do you know what I mean? You've got budget and you've got to make profit on that, because if you make a loss, that's going to affect you the year after or the year after that. So you've got to pick the right subjects to tool and do. Yourself.
Yeah, speaking on that, I know you guys have been quite critical of Revel lately, but speaking from an Airfix point of view, I think I know a few questions from last time as well, and then quite a few people do say that shows us that you guys are doing very well. And I'll probably say the main thing, the reason why I think we're doing well, obviously I started roughly when a new CEO started as well, isn't it? And then that's when he sort of turned things around. He's done a lot of things trying to get, if you guys have seen his sort of like model and his sort of the way he's taking the company, is that he's thinking a lot of the future, and he's not trying to do quick changes and then trying to please a few people. He's thinking very long term and building a good foundation. And I think the main thing of that is I kind of understand it a bit more now, if that makes sense, because I've been working for about 1.5 years now, and just kind of understanding how the business works and where it's all coming from. It's the people, like you guys say that we're hiring modelers and stuff like that. I'm a modeler as well, and I'm a designer, but the people around me and everything like that, I'll probably say marketing, our manager, our development, a design team, everything, the people are very hardworking. And I think the people are the ones that are turning the business around, if that makes sense, from how it was about 5-6 years ago or anything like that. I think the people who are around, even when you guys have been to the shows and stuff like that, and people who have been to shows, you speak to the people, they're very engaging, very devoted to the brand, if that makes sense. They're not the type of people who start 9 to 5 and then start exactly at 9 o'clock, finish at 5 o'clock, but come in a bit early, start a bit, finish a bit late. And the time, that's not something that is very hard to get, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You guys know, you guys can obviously, over your course of your career and stuff like that, it's quite hard to become motivated. It's very difficult to be motivated and enjoy your job, and a lot of people at work enjoy their job and stuff like that. I think that's kind of coming across in our products now as well. Like how you guys were saying about the Tiger Moth, the Mick, the Hellcat, all those good products that are coming out, and I think that's reflective on a lot of hard work by a lot of people. And I think that's probably the future is quite good. I'm quite looking forward to the future and everything like that, in terms of where Airfix is going and stuff like that. I think it's going in a good direction and stuff like that, and a lot of that is solely based on the people that work there. Everyone's quite happy working there, and just the direction of the company is going, and it's just the people. That's what I would say. Yeah,
I always say, one of the things I had quite a rant on this as well, is that don't begrudge a company for making a profit. Because everybody says, they're just making money and all the rest of it. If a company is making money, they're more likely to invest in people like yourself. So you get staff in, probably, sort of young talent as well, and they'll take a punt at something to give it a try, because the company's making money, so it can afford to do it. And also it can invest in new things, new tooling things, and just that little bit more. Where if a company is literally living hand to mouth, it's got nowhere to go. It's very hard to improve yourself if you're not actually making any money. And I've often said that it's all very well, people flogging kits for next to nothing online, and I don't really want to talk about that way, but it was quite well known a few years ago now that there was people out there who were selling Airfix kits at basically cost at trade just to get sales, and it was not being horrible, but downgrading the price, and people like me and Matt, who've got a store with overheads and all the rest of it, couldn't compete. So it was very, very difficult back then. But, you know, companies need to make a profit so they can invest in the future. So that may be things like, you know, research and development and trying new things and you know, testing and having, you know, giving designers like yourself a little bit more time as well to be able to refine a kit. We all talk about it, and I know, especially from my flight sim background as well, we often say about if it has probably had another few more months design time, they could have ironed out all the problems. But it's say time is money at the end of the day, so you know, you've got deadlines to meet and things like that. So you know, again, if the company's got a bit more money, they can be a bit more, you know, relaxed on the timing to get it right and things like that. But all too often there's people out there saying, oh, I can get a kit this cheap, and you know, you can buy this one's cheaper, and sometimes I don't think it works. It's going to come back and bite you. Companies need to get in some money to invest, to try new things, to, you know, and as you say, new ranges especially, that's always a nightmare, because you know what we were saying, you have your core bread and butter kits that you do, World War II famously, you know, so if you suddenly wanted to go into a line of something completely different, that would be a punt, you know, on that particular subject matter, and would you want to risk doing it and all the rest of it? The company's doing well, it might be inclined to do it, you know. So
I mean, like kits nowadays is quite so for example, a couple of days ago you couldn't tell between the Fujami and the Airfix Skyhawk.
yeah,
it's quite a good example, because the way I would say it for scale modeling in general is that the journey between the finished product is more or less the same. It depends on the specific modeler, how they want to weather it and stuff like that, and that's evident on the Skyhawk, because you guys couldn't tell between the Fujami one and the Airfix one. And to be honest, not many people really care who's is who anyway. But the fact that what motivates people to buy a particular kit is the journey from the start to the finished article. That's the difference. That's what kind of like makes someone. That's probably the most unique part of a kit, is the build process and how things go together and stuff like that. But when it gets to the painting and weathering stage, that's more solely down to you in terms of how you put your own finesse into it. So definitely. Yeah, I think that's quite interesting. I mean, like when I was thinking about that, when you guys were trying to figure out what's the difference between, which one is the Fujami one and the Airfix one. It's like at the end of the day, they kind of look both the same. So it's only the difference is the journey getting to that final stage. That's the difference.
Which actually just leads us beautifully, because we are sort of getting caught on time as ever with it. So this is your baby, yes? For the Spitfire?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that you're working on at the moment. So if you haven't seen this, guys, you know, basically if you just go to Google and put in Airfix Workbench, you'll see this for the design of the one that's going through on this one. So how long have you been working on this one now?
So that's basically in the tooling stages now as well. That took a while, to be honest. That was so as you can see there, that's surface modeling. If anyone knows about CAD modeling, it's not just sort of solid modeling. So if you look at the blue one on the top, that's where you build up the surfaces, make an enclosed, build up the different surfaces together, and then sort of like have to close it all up and then get the solid state, which is the one below it. But yeah, that was a very big, I had a big learning curve doing that kit, and that ties in, that is the more complicated one, but I'd done the starter one, which is one with the Airfix stand. That's the one I've done before that, but they're both very similarly related. As you guys can see as well, this is a good thing as well to bring up. When people say, oh, you guys can scale up a kit, so a lot of people, you get that a lot. I think a little myth buster is that it's not as simple as just pressing a little scale up button.
Enlarge by 200%.
And the main thing is wall thickness. So as you can see that sort of turquoise color in the inside. That is the internal surface, and then the blue one outside is the external surface. So you've got to do both surfaces, and not many people think of that. It's not like as simple as just doing the outside surface and pressing like a thickening button or something like that, or it just automatically does it.
It's not like making a chocolate egg.
It's not as simple as that. It really isn't. It's not like as simple as pressing like an offset button as well. You've got to rebuild the surfaces and you've got to do it very accurately. And the inside surface is a lot more difficult because you're trying to see through the inside of an aircraft, and you can't exactly go to a museum and see the inside of an aircraft like that. So that is very challenging a bit. And I did have a lot of challenge where it comes to that little wing root, that wing fillet. That is quite a difficult thing to do. It's quite hard to comprehend, but you've got to basically think about it in your head before you've actually got it down on paper or down on your screen. So yeah, that is quite a big challenge.
Very good.
Yeah, I was quite happy with the cockpit, to be honest. I was really happy with that. It's quite nice. I mean, like the first time I think we as a company have done like anything that complicated in the 70-second scale Spitfire. Trying to get as much detail in it as possible.
Well, cockpit for 70 seconds.
I was going to say, you know, that looks like a 48 cockpit, doesn't it? Or even 30 second,
30
really.
second, I'm thinking.
You know, with the oxygen bottles in there and all the detail going down in there, as you say, really, for 70 second, again, I often talk about doing the reviews. You know, 10 years ago, that would have been a 30-second scale. You know, 5 years ago, 48, and here we are now, that's a 70-second scale kit. So it's how, you know, again, I think it's kudos to obviously you as a designer, but also obviously, you know, improvements with injection molding and tooling to be able to produce details like that, you know, in 70-second scale.
I was about to say, I think Airfix in the 70-second scale are the company that are pushing the envelope, as in detail that you're getting. I think others are. You've got a couple of companies, but I think Airfix are the leaders in it, to be honest. The amount of cockpit detail, because obviously they were renowned back in the day of a seat and a pilot and a stick. You know, that's how it was though, because that was modelling back then. But now, you know, it's like, well, we've done the Buccaneers, we've done the Phantoms, and everything that's, you know, newer tool, shall we say, is just getting better. Really, the detail is getting, you know, better and better. And say with the cockpits, blimey, like I said, they're 30-second cockpits, never mind 70-second. So.
But yeah. No.
Can you guys still see me? Because my thing's frozen.
Yeah, no, still see you.
He's still here, still moving.
It's all right. We're just looking at your lovely work, as I say, with the cockpit. So, just out of interest, what's been the nightmare on this kit? What's been the bit that's kept you up at night? Trying to figure it out to get it to look right.
What, on the Spitfire?
Oh yeah, I'm working on the Spitfire. What's been the most difficult part?
Working on the Spitfire, probably, because it's such an iconic aeroplane. I'd be absolutely,
My connection's breaking up a bit.
Oh right, okay. You'll find this end. You're absolutely fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you guys are breaking up slightly.
Oh right, you're okay here.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us all right?
I can hear you guys fine, but all your screens are frozen.
Oh right. Sorry. Do you want to try and jump in and out again?
Well, let's see. Yeah, go on.
It might clear.
Should I end it and then you guys give me a call back?
Yeah, if you want to do that, that's no problem. We'll just sit here on this screen. Yeah. So if you just come out and then I'll call you straight back.
Okay, cool.
I won't show his details, otherwise everybody will be Skyping him.
Yeah.
Right.
Should I press leave call or end call for everyone?
If you just end your call.
Okay, cool.
Right, hold on. Let's try and get him back. There's a bit where we can't get him back. We're like, Hold on, he's coming back, everyone. Stand by.
Just out of curiosity, Nathan, where's that little tornado come from?
Yeah.
This one?
Have you just built that?
No, this is a bench queen.
All right, okay.
Which I'm thinking of resurrecting to do as a desert babe in 72.
I take it that's the Rebel kit, yeah?
No, this is the Hasegawa, and it's had to have its nose, it's had a nose job.
Oh, right, okay.
I fixed the nose with a bit of resin. But it just got, I don't know why I stopped building it, because the cockpit's done.
So where are you at with the other one? Is it ready for paint?
My 48 scale one has had it's ready for paint. I'm just doing the masking on the canopy. It's had black paint put on the nose cone. So the next job is mask the canopy, and then I'll be into the main priming and painting stage.
Right, we're just having a bit of trouble getting. We'll just try him again.
Has his thing gone?
Connection's dead. I think it's saying he's unavailable now. So.
Oh dear. Probably. Have we got any questions in chat, Nate, that you see we can just sort of fill in?
We've got a PM models question if you want it.
Yeah.
David Johnson has asked, any idea when PM can get Attacker US Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps modern greys back in stock? He wants to start on his Tomcat.
Honestly, no, I don't. They're out at our suppliers and Attacker are shut. I even had a look somewhere else that sells it that we think it, and they're out of stock of it as well. Like I've said with Attacker paints, our stocks are getting limited now because of obviously Attacker being closed in Poland. So they're not getting stocks in at our supplier, and they're running out because they're obviously just running off what they already have. So a lot of the sets are out of stock, literally with them. So they're out of stock with us because I think that's one of the first. It's a really, really popular set anyway. So I think that's one of the first ones that went out of stock with them. It was that and the Vietnam paint scheme one with the Phantom on the front.
Yeah,
that's another one that's gone. The Navy one with the Corsair on the front, that's out of stock. That's been out of stock ages. They just sort of drip, you know what I mean? I think the Vulcan one's now gone as well, the number 5 set. So, and I know a lot of the singles are going out as well. So, yeah, unfortunately, that paint set, I don't know, and I don't know obviously when we're going to get it back in. So, I've got no dates for that.
That's one of the COVID problems, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, now can you guys see me?
Ah, he's back. Right.
It's back.
Okay, hold on. Right, yeah, you're back. There we go. Quick switch round with everyone. Nathan's moved across. That's it. Phew.
Cool.
Perfect. And he's back. So yes, right. We'll just try that last bit of question again. So what was the most difficult part working on the Spitfire?
I've had a lot of problems doing the lower wing, just where it reached, because when you're seeing the plastic part, it doesn't look very complicated. But yeah, getting that wing fillet, because obviously you've got 3-4 different parts coming together with the fuselage, the top wing and the bottom wing. Trying to get that fillet right was very, very tricky. Because you're trying, it's like one of those things where you're trying to do something in your head before you've actually done it on your screen. So yeah, that was definitely the most difficult part. I
have to say, you know, this is the best way to put this. You must have balls of steel, because let's face it, a Spitfire is probably a couple of things. One, the most iconic British fighter ever. Yeah. Airfix's bread and butter are very much known for Spitfires and all the rest of it. And then you, as a young designer, being given the keys to it to say, right, we need, you know, a Spitfire done like this, I think it's lovely. I think it's great that they entrusted you as a company as well with such an iconic thing, you know, to do something like it. But to be honest, it looks like a Spitfire to me. So it's got the lovely, you know, elliptical wing and all the rest of it. Yeah. But no, when's it going to be out anyway?
I have no idea actually. I assume it will probably be in the next few months. But obviously with everything that's going on, I'm not 100% sure. But it is very close to getting approved on tooling and stuff like that. But after that, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
Very cool. But no, it's
funny because I've had a few people, you know, like they don't like the top versions of things, you know, like the Hurricane and the Spit and stuff like that. And I actually do, because I like the paint scheme. I do like the desert paint scheme with the Azure blue in the...
Yeah, the Azure blue. I think it's actually a nice colour, and it weathers well as well.
I just think it looks brilliant. I just think it's a fantastic colour scheme.
There's a shark mouth on this one as well.
So is there? Oh, there you go. I have to build it then, won't I? That's it. I'm sold.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
That and P40 with a shark mouth. Sold.
It's one of the few Spitfires where you have both double cannons as well.
Yeah,
I think the Mark V is one of the few ones where you have actually 2 cannons on there.
So
yeah.
Very nice. Right, Neil says, hopefully an easy question to ask. Why do Airfix use single bags for packaging while other makers use separate? Two ways of looking at this, because we did say this last time, wasn't it? You either you lot are really tight, or you're trying to save the planet.
I'm going to save the trees, save the fishes.
Save the fish, innit?
I'll go with a bit of both on that one.
Right, Darren says, hi, is it possible Airfix could share the research media you find for decor options provided? I think the web link on instructions that took us to a page that showed the actual source of the decor options would be fantastic. Which is quite an interesting question as well, because obviously the Tiger Moth ones, I take it the two options that are in the box is where you did the research from, off of those two? Because they're living Tiger Moths, aren't they?
Yeah. The thing is with the decor research and everything like that, is that it's not one source of information, isn't it? I mean, a lot of it comes from books, to be honest, and outside research and stuff like that. So it's not actually done, a lot of it, by one source, if that makes sense. So it's not like you can just put a website link on there. And to be honest, a lot of it is done by website, to be honest. A lot of it is done by sort of old school way. I mean, yeah, I think that's probably the main thing, is that there's not one source, and it's not just like one website link. Although that is quite an interesting thing to say. I mean, like, that is an interesting topic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does actually. As I say, I can understand what you're saying, because perhaps if you shared your research and any photos you had of the originals and stuff like that, because obviously you can't, from a cost point of view, put them in the box, but perhaps if you had a section on your website, because if you had like original photos of the original thing and you know things like that, I think that actually that'd be quite a nice little addition to your modelling as well, because you'd have your reference photos for it going online and looking. You can go to the, not be funny, it's traffic for the site as well, so gets people onto the Airfix website.
Who makes the decision then on decal options?
Decal options is done by the researchers and stuff like that, research team and the managers and stuff like that. Because I remember seeing a question like that, similar for like box art and stuff like that as well. The main thing that we do is do something that actually looks pretty cool. I think that's probably the main thing, like the box art. I think something that is appealing, that stands out, and will sell. Something that's pretty cool. I mean, like, that's probably the most thing that we go for, is what's the most attractive, and depending on the subject, is what's the most iconic. Because for example, P51, the Dooley Bird one, is the box art one, because that's quite a famous one, and it's like a little tribute to Matchbox, because it's done in that sort of Matchbox box art.
It is nice.
It's done in that, and the P51 Lu 4 is quite a famous P51 Mustang, and that was obviously done for the box art and the main scheme and stuff like that. So kind of just we go with what's pretty cool and what people were like, to be honest. That's what we would go for. I mean, like, for example, now I would say there's a shark mouth on that Spitfire, something that's pretty cool and like people want to build. That's what we go for.
Well, it is nice because of the cooler. It gives it a real, because obviously Spitfires with the shark mouth just doesn't work normally because they're too slink, but when they've got, as you say, with the cooler underneath like that, it lends itself really well to having them.
To be honest, I think quite a few years ago, that's why I bought the Tornado IDS, because it has that really cool, the Rover one, it's got that really cool tail art on the, I can't remember, it's like it's an animal or something like that. It's a tiger,
like the tiger one.
Yeah, that's
the only one on it.
That's the only reason why I bought it, because I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool.
Definitely. Okay, so question. Do you know why most kit manufacturers do not make the C5 Galaxy? I know that Rodin makes a couple, but they're overpriced. It seems that other companies could make one and sell them cheaper, thus making a lot of money.
It's a bit niche.
I was going to say, the trouble with that is it's a bit niche, isn't it?
Yeah.
To say the least.
Bombers.
Does Airfix still do its airliner series?
No.
They drop them now, they? Because you used to back in the day, wouldn't it?
Yeah. To be honest, in the back end of the day, we used to do quite a lot of stuff when you think about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, Matt's been reminiscing, going through his old catalogues.
We need to pull out the old catalogue.
Yes, that's it. Get the ye olde, 1979 catalogue out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm bound to have one here somewhere.
John says, good evening, gentlemen from the US. I have a Buccaneer question. When the Royal Navy gave the Buccaneers to the RAF, did the Navy pilots join the RAF? We know a man who could probably answer that very well, but I don't think he's on tonight. He's probably he's past his bedtime.
You, Jamie Hager.
Yeah.
Hey, somehow I think not.
I can imagine his answer would be definitely not.
Yes.
Mind you, he flew in the back of an RAF Tornado for how many years? So they do interchange, but I don't think it worked quite like that. I think the Navy, because didn't they get upgraded when they went into RAF service as well, the aircraft?
I
couldn't tell you. I bet somebody in a chat.
It's a long time since I did any sort of research on the Bucks, but I don't know when they went and got upgraded to the RAF standard.
There's S2Bs, which are RAF standard, and the S2Cs, which is Royal Navy. I know they put Royal Navy, I think, wingtips back onto the Gulf War because they were better at low level. There are a couple of changes between a Navy and an RAF Buccaneer, but wouldn't they have been? The pilots of the Buccaneers might have been shoved in Sea Harriers or helicopters. Oh, God forbid.
That's it. You will get into that. Yes, we don't know. We'll ask a man who probably knows, though, or if not, he will be able to find out.
For another day, isn't it?
Tim says, hi all, and welcome back to Pramjet. What would you recommend as the best World War II bomber to set up to... Hold on. What would you recommend as the best World War II bomber to step up to from single-seaters for someone returning to the hobby? Love your work.
I don't know. I never built a World War II bomber, I don't think. First World War II bombers are quite complicated as well.
The Wellington's all right, isn't it? The Airfix Wellington, if we're talking Airfix tonight.
Yeah.
The Lancaster's got the new tool Lancaster and the B-25s and...
The B-17 is quite complicated. B-17 is quite complicated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it probably depends on... That's where just choose what you think is what you like, what sort of subject you like.
Again, this is what we always say. If you've got something pricks your interest,
I
think that's the first thing you want to do. When you're building a kit, if you're not into it, it's very difficult to get emotionally attached to wanting to finish it. So, and that's the thing. You want to have something where you're going to see it right the way through and enjoy it. I would highly recommend going on YouTube for a couple of hours and watching videos on all different stuff, and you'll find something that'll prick your interest with it. And then obviously if you've got books and research, you can then look at those as well to get ideas of perhaps what country, what markings and things like that you want to do with it, and go from there. That would be my thing to it. Tim says, question, what is your relationship with Humbrol paints and supplies? Do you have any pressure to use them? Clearly not. Have you seen what's behind him? Are you free to use what you want? I was going to say, if you look over his shoulder, you don't see many tinlets in there, do you? So yes, what is the tie-in? Obviously, company point of view, they're all under the same umbrella, aren't you?
The same umbrella. Technically, Hornby is the parent company, and then all Airfix, Scale Electrics, Humbrol, and all that are underneath them. So Hornby is the main one. Do I have any pressure to use them? No.
Do you use them?
No.
I tell you what, one day you're going to have to put me in contact with somebody from Humbrol, and we'll get them on, and then I can say to them, when are they going to invest about $5 into the product to improve it? Because again, it's one of those things where as kids, and even modelers now, and we occasionally need it. I use it on stormtrooper outfits because I need the Oxford blue. Anyway, but there is reasons to do it. But why has Humbrol kept to almost the same formula and everything right the way through? It's not like they've ever
evolved.
Yeah, they just stuck with that brand.
Mm.
All they've done is change the picture of the tinlet over the years, but it's the same stuff in it.
To be honest, you'd think that as well, but you would actually be quite surprised by how many people still buy it.
Well, I can imagine. Oh yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. You get the people, and if you go into any model shop, you've usually got a rack of it. Admittedly, most of them are from 1970 in there still, but they'd probably be fine if you give them a good shake and away you go. But yeah, it is. It's one of those things. So but it'd be interesting to find out. Again, I think, like we're saying, if they were selling tons of it, I reckon, and they're making money, then perhaps they would evolve and do a new formula, reinvent themselves. We could all go out and buy it and have rackfuls of it, and everyone would be fine. But yeah, it just seems to be that they just never evolved as a company and moved on. It's the same stuff from the 70s, you know, and 60s.
No, I'll definitely pass that one up. What I'll do, I'll tell them to watch this little clip as well.
Yeah, get him to watch it. Stamp this bit. He said it at about 10:02.
We'll just come back to the Humbrol way.
Yeah, that's it. Before you know it, we're all into it's the new thing.
I think there's a place for the enamel paints and stuff like that, just because people still like them and stuff like that. Maybe the tin needs to change to something else. Maybe.
Yeah, I think get rid of the tin for Christ's sake.
That's what I was about to say. If you can get somebody on, so we can say why they stick with them horrible little tins, then there's obviously a better way. Even if they put it in like a jar, like Tammy, or at least you could stir it up and actually get to the bottom of it and get the fixed stuff. Because actually, as a paint, I know stuff's like everybody's going to lacquers and acrylics and stuff, but it does work. I've used it. Well, couple of years ago, I think I used it on something anyway when we had that little.
Yeah, we did. We was messing around with it because we have said one day we're all going to build an Airfix kit with Humbrol paint.
Yeah,
but luckily no one
we've got
made us do it yet, but we keep saying it.
We've got quite a monopoly on it in terms of the enamel side because no one else can bring in their enamel paints in it.
No.
So
no, exactly.
The only choice you have is Humbrol.
Yeah, that's it. So, got to be
Yeah.
done it. Anyway, from your experience, what are the key factors that go no-go for a project? Is there a market study that takes place by Airfix or maybe a third party establish the market need?
Into a project. It's a very broad question.
It is.
Yeah.
Like we discussed this, didn't we, on another show? We were saying that you guys have a list that could change at any point, but you roughly know what you're doing for the next few years. And obviously that is, like we said before, there's obviously market factors because you get stuff that's very popular, very much in at the market, but that could change if another manufacturer suddenly released it. So you might drop that idea and it would slip back. So from that point of view, I think, just helping you out with this one a bit, we did cover it a bit, saying from a market point of view, you guys have got a rough idea what you're doing for the next few years, but it is very fluid. It can change.
Yeah.
Things come to the top and things drop off.
I mean, like from a design point of view, trying to think, because it is a very broad question. Probably just stuff like that. Trying to decide, we kind of know what we're going to release in the next few years and stuff like that, and then kind of adapt to the market. Yeah.
Okay, so Lars says, hi, it'd be nice to see a new 172nd Marauder.
Cool.
Nice
Thanks.
classic light bomber.
Yeah. I think we do have a Marauder, don't we? Isn't that the Marauders in the B26 or something else?
Yeah, no, it is, but it's an old kit.
Yeah.
A neutral one would be.
Yeah, that's an old one. It's been reboxed, isn't it? They've reboxed it, but it's the old one, isn't it? So
it's not awful. I built it. It's not awful, but for what you're releasing now, it's awful. If that makes sense. If you put in like the new stuff to like when that was released, it's not great. But a new one, Marauders are proper. Like again, I think as the guy does the 7-second, which is you can't get. It's a nice kit, but you can't get it.
Didn't someone do a 132nd one not too long ago? You guys got it?
No, there's only one out in 48, and that's your monogram kit.
Yeah.
It's really underrepresented.
It has been, it's been underrepresented. Not many about. Yeah.
Okay, no, we'll definitely pass on.
But yeah, it's a nice looking aircraft, and the RAF used it, didn't they?
Yeah. With Airfix doing the Tiger Moth, how about a 148 scale Chipmunk? It will complement the Tiger Moth. So yeah, look.
Yeah, I'll pass that on.
Are you writing all these down, or are you just going to watch this as a debrief?
No, I've got it in my head.
I see one of your colleagues commented on the video from last time.
Yeah, I was quite surprised by that as well.
He was very positive. It's fine. Have you ever thought about doing a 1/48 scale Sikorsky H19? What's one of them?
That's a quick Google search.
Oh, it's like Whirlwind.
Is that like a whirlwind?
Western Whirlwind. It's the predecessor to that, isn't it? Again, it's not Wessex, is it?
It needs to be a Wessex.
Yeah, it's got to be a Wessex. When Airfix finally get on with it and release it, yeah, that's what that is. It's one of them. We know they're working on it. He's bluffing me. So he's going to make me stand at Telford one year and he's going to unravel it. Right, okay, so product suggestion. Please continue with other versions of the 48 scale Hurricane Mark II version, please.
Delete some of my questions off the chat, so that's good.
Oh, right, okay.
I've got about 7 or 8 banks filled when we're ready.
Oh, right, okay. What I'll do, I'll just run down these quite quickly and then we'll just go over to those because we're running out of time as always. Darren says, the web link idea direct you to Airfix where you can collaborate all your research photos you have used. Definitely a web link on the instructions is a great way forward. So there you go. So if you pioneer that, I need a little name at the bottom if you don't mind. Because it's my idea. Do you know when the Airfix Club might reopen to new members?
It's in the process of being done, but it was very actually close to being released. But I think obviously because of the COVID-19, it's been pushed back a bit. But it is very close to being re-released. So yeah.
Right. Okay. So watch this space.
Yeah, watch the space.
Okay. William here with a couple of questions. How many kit manufacturing assembly sites where you have operations, and given the success of the Airfix into 2019, are these plants growing in size for more capability or expanding the number of sites to serve worldwide markets more effectively? Crikey.
Well, the manufacturer and everything is not actually owned by Airfix, if that makes sense. So that's operations is completely separate to us. I mean, like it's kind of like how Apple and these places
most companies. We were discussing this off air afterwards, weren't we? We were saying there's only a handful of companies who do in-house everything, tooling, injection molding, packaging, and I
was watching a video about Bandai, and I think they do their manufacturing in-house as well.
Yeah.
So that is literally one of the very, very few companies that do manufacturing in-house. I don't think many people do. People like Dyson, all these sort of companies, they don't do any manufacturing in-house. It's all outsourced just because they're not experts in manufacturing, and it's just a very costly and expensive thing for them to do. So
yeah, absolutely. I can understand that.
I mean, like you don't manufacture your sanding sticks and stuff like that as well.
No.
I mean, like you manufacture your wash and pigment and stuff like that.
But again, you get to that area, isn't it? It's like, certainly from the sander range and all the rest of it, it's so many different parts could make them up. To get all the parts even in is a full-time job. Then obviously manufacturing them and packaging and stuff like that we do, but I can do that on the sofa. But it's a lot easier to outsource and get other people to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just because they're obviously dedicated for that.
That's what they do. That's their business line of business. And I think, like with injection molding, we often speak about different qualities of injection molding because clearly, even Airfix over the years has suffered because of the injection molding. I think you'll agree with that. And now, obviously, it's all done in India now. And things like that, and admittedly I have got a short shot again, but they have been worse in the past, and like we were saying, it's one of those things where as I say, it is done to a price point at the end of the day. It needs to make money, and it is a very competitive market. So Airfix has their area in the market, which I think is expanding these days. I have to say, you guys are doing a fantastic job, and it's definitely expanding. Okay, last question from in here, then we'll hand over to Nath. Adrian says, so any Battle of Britain aircraft, I think he means reissue of kits coming German, because obviously
Yeah, you guys were saying that in a
It's the
couple of...
anniversary, isn't it, for the Battle of
Yeah,
Britain? Are you planning on bringing out?
You said you wanted the Dornier 17, isn't it?
Yeah.
You guys saying how
Yeah.
come we're not doing that? Boy, if it's not in the catalogue, then it's not coming out. But for the reason for it, I'm not sure.
I was going to say the Anchor 111P1 as well. That could have made a.
That's a question I've got up here from Richard. Is what are Airfix releasing, and it's all in the catalogue, isn't it?
Yeah, everything that's is what's being released this year.
Is the 109 coming out? Out?
No, not yet. Not the latest boxing.
It's coming out though. That's been released, and someone's asking about the 24 Stuka, and that's
one.
back out, isn't it?
Yeah, that's coming. Yeah, that's coming out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That's coming out. The Stuka, Spitfire, and Hurricane for 1 scale.
Yeah.
Very nice. I have to build it again because I did that one for Epic's magazine.
Oh, nice.
Shameless plug. It's probably before your time. Did you know I used to write for him?
No.
Look, see? That's me. So, yes.
Hey, Franjit, that was epic with Phil spelling as well.
It was. Luckily, there's more pictures than writing. Clearly, you can tell it's one of my builds in here. But yeah, it's a bit out of date because it's all the Pro Modeler stuff. But yeah. There you go. That's 10 years ago.
Wasn't it?
Hey?
That camera that's up behind you.
Yeah, I did that for FX as well. When that one first came out, I've still got the kit. So, yes, those were the glory days, clearly.
Just a right, Pranjit, just a separate thing, because talking of cameras, could you ask your bosses, or boss, or whoever, if the 72nd one will ever be released, the PR9?
Okay, I'll ask.
Thanks.
I'll ask.
Right, go on then, Nate. What questions have you got?
I got a couple of quick questions. We'll do those first. How many other members of the design department also build models like you?
No one. I'm the only one. Yeah. They build. Some of them have built kits, but I'm probably the only one who does it full time, if that makes sense, as a hobby, which is quite rare and reasonable because I'm 25 years old. If you guys don't know, that's super young to be doing modeling, if that makes sense. I've been doing it for about 10 years straight. So I got into it about 16. Yeah. And I've been doing it for 10 years. So more or less, I've only had a gap of about a year or so. But yeah, literally been doing it non-stop. So that is quite a long time. And I know people have... didn't even know my compressor was on. There we go, turn that off.
Hey, look, just like us.
Yeah. But yeah, the other guy who does it, he's obviously got a family and everything now as well. So obviously, family stuff, I think that's quite a lot. That's normally the main reason why people do stop modeling, is because of family commitments and stuff like that. Obviously, I haven't got much of a family right now in terms of like taking care of kids and stuff like that. But I imagine if I were to, I will probably stop modeling, or my modeling time would dramatically decrease. So yeah, that is one of the luxuries.
You might find it increases because you can hide.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we've all been there. It's one of those things. We do this to escape.
Yeah.
If you ever do, never give up modelling because it's the only bit that will keep you sane.
Yeah, you can escape. Yeah. That's the thing. You know what end up. Your modelling room gets converted though into a nursery. That's the only trouble.
But to be honest, when I think about how much I actually do, I'm doing probably more than I know. Phil does quite a lot of modelling. I've probably been doing more than him. I mean, I've gone through about 3 bottles of self-leveling thinner and stuff like that. I think I've done about 10 models so far, 15 models so far, and it's only been 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, I know. That's up against
it's quite a bit.
I think Patrick's got more of a request rather than a question. He wants to see the aircraft stands put back in the 72 fighter aircraft.
Is that the clear ones or the sort of like dogfire ones, the one with the like squiggly stand? Is that? I can't remember.
Like, to be honest, he said, why doesn't Airfix include stands with their fighter kits?
Oh, you forget the Spitfire and Hawk that's coming out. That's got stands in there.
That's answered that one. Question.
That's a fashion thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that was they went out of fashion in the 80s. I think was the end of the stands, and then.
But that said, don't forget the Hasegawa 72nd stuff's coming out with them, isn't it? Because it's in with the F-35. Typhoon's got it.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're having a bit of a resurgence, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's a fashion thing because for it, well, as a Gower, they never do one. They've only just started to do it, haven't they? So,
to be honest, that's actually quite nice doing an aircraft in flight because you don't have to do no wheels, don't have to on the aircraft.
That's what I do, loads of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. I was like, the build goes a lot more quicker and stuff like that, and it does look pretty cool because that's how it is supposed to be. It's supposed to be an aircraft in flight. That's how it naturally is supposed to be. So yeah, they are actually pretty. They're quite fun and quick to do because obviously, depending on the aircraft, I remember I'd done the Hunter in flight, and I was like, oh great, because I'd done two side by side, one wheels down and one wheel in flight. And I was like, the in-flight one was so much better because all you have to do is pop the panel in and then just run a washer on it, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. And also, the thing is, if you do them in flight, you don't have to put as much time into the cockpits.
Yeah.
And all of those areas as well. So.
Although you do have to do a pilot.
Well, you do need your pilot figure, even if mine does look ill.
The big was quite funny. That really lanky guy, the one with the really big long arms.
Oh yeah. Well, the new one that's in there now, he's all right. He's just a bit hypoxic. We think he's a bit grey.
yeah.
After he had a wash, he went a bit ill looking. He could do with some sun. Go on, Dave. What else we got?
Next question is from Michael over in New York City. Is how many models on average does Airfix have to sell worldwide to break even? On that tooling, I presume.
That's done. Oh, I don't really know the numbers and figures, but I'm pretty sure that's done over a set period of time. So before a kit is actually released and like before it actually gets approved, the guys sit down, not me, but like people that are a lot more above me and managers and finance people. They sit down, they go through the numbers and everything like that, and seeing how quickly and how long it will take, or how long it will take for them to make their money back and break even. And to be honest, if it can come to the thing where if it's taking too long, then they will have to sit down and come up with a plan on how they can make their money back. Because obviously, if you don't make enough money now, it's kind of gonna affect your investment in 3, 4, 5 years time.
That's what we were talking before. The thing is, if it's not making money, there's no money to invest in the future.
Exactly.
And that's what we were saying before. And I think a lot of people don't understand that concept of having some cash in the bank to be able to invest. And when you've got it, it's lovely. But if you haven't, you can't. So
yeah, I mean, like this hobby and everything is a very long-term, long-thinking plan, because obviously your decisions 3, 4, 5 years ago will affect you in the future and stuff like that. So you've got to. That's where the thing is. You've always got to plan for the future and stuff like that, and have one eye on that, and have more long-term goals than short-term goals.
Absolutely.
I think that those Airfix as a company and their new releases, I actually think you release a lot. If I'm honest, I think you do
absolutely,
For the other companies,
in terms of neutral stuff, I would probably say we probably release the most, I think.
Yeah, I would say, we were discussing the other day about kit releases being really thin on the ground and not being funny. Trumpeter a couple of years ago, you couldn't shut them up. They were throwing something out every week, or it felt like it, in Hobby Boss. And now it's not much coming down through the line. And I'd say, face it, Revell, but you guys still consistently, kits are coming to the market all the time. So
that's also another thing as well, depending on the company. Obviously, I can only speak for Airfix, but maybe their long-term investment is a bit more longer, as in the money they're going to get back of when they break even. Maybe that's longer and shorter. That's why they don't release as much and stuff like that. So that's probably a factor as well.
But again, I think going back to, obviously it must be the way of the world. I mean, we'll use Tamiya as an example. Their new releases every year is not prolific by any stretch. Well, as a guy, we can't really include
giving up.
But I think, to be honest with you, I think you touched on it, Phil, with Trumpeter and Hobby Boss and some of them, because they were just chucking kits out left, right, centre, and they just slowed to a trickle. So there's obviously something global that's obviously triggered that. They've either run out of subjects because they've released loads of stuff anyway, or versions of it, or it is the market, and the market's perhaps slowed down a bit, or it's.
And obviously, you've got to be quite careful about overly investing in something, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to release the right subjects that will, because I was just thinking, when you were saying about your management and stuff like that, and picking subjects that you're going to release and stuff, it's got to be. Just been attacked by some midge. It's got to be. It's got to be a worry for them, because they've got to say, right, we will invest in this one. We'll put our resources into doing this kit, knowing that obviously it needs to make money. That's a big decision to make for a company, I think. You know what I mean?
If you don't get it right,
yes,
that's right. Yeah,
people in many years' time will probably feel the effect of it.
Yes,
that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
your decisions and everything, you won't see the effect of it straight away. And to be honest, half the people who make those decisions might not even be working in that company.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a bit of a gamble, really, isn't it? That I know you do your research, market research, and everything as best you can, but you don't know until, or AFIX don't know until that kit's released, how that's going to go down. Do you know what I mean? So that's
probably another thing why we probably might take a bit more time releasing something. Or you've got to take a bit more time. I mean, like, one thing manager says is that if it's delayed, it's delayed. But if you bring it out and it's not good or rubbish or something like that, it's gonna be like that forever.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, like, if something's delayed, you're not gonna remember it's being. You might remember it's being delayed, but you're not gonna be bothered when it's out. But you're always gonna be bothered if something's wrong with it.
Yeah, we could use an F14 as an example of delay.
Yes. Well, yeah, and a delay and a delay.
But at the end of the day, it has come out. And it's a decent kit, let's be honest. So
it's a very, very decent kit and very reasonably priced as well.
It is. But yeah, bang for buck. I know we will take the mick, but it is my recommendation. Somebody wants to do an F14, I'd say build that one, because for bang for buck, I'm not. So 40 quid extra for the Tamiya one, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, from a design point of view, sometimes your brain can get a bit fried, so you can make mistakes and stuff like that, or miss something. And it's just a bit better just to take a little step back and maybe have some other people look at it and just take your time rather than rushing it out into market when there's no point of rushing it into market. Because if you bring something out and it's wrong or you're not happy with it, it has an effect on the company and yourself as a designer as well. Like, just take your time and then bring out the right product, and then have as least mistakes, to have something that you're proud of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not being funny, from you as a designer's point of view, you're making a kit that will probably go on longer than you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? And it's, as you say, it might not be released for a few years, but every few years it will probably come out as another release, and it's going to go on for a long, long time. So I think that's the thing with them, longevity.
Yeah, that's probably the main thing. I mean, like, even when I'm designing my kits, just get it right. If it takes a bit longer than what you think it would be, then obviously within a reasonable amount of time, obviously don't want to take like 2 years designing like a wheel or something like that.
So just out of interest, when you obviously do the tooling, okay, so the manufacturer for that's in China, does the tooling get sent back to you, or does it go straight to the
it goes straight to India. It goes straight to India, the manufacturer.
So when they finish doing the run, do they keep it, or does it come back to you? Do you have a room, like a vault full of all the tooling, in other words? Or does it all kept at the manufacturer?
I would assume so. I think it stays with either the manufacturer, or it goes in like a sort of like safe, or like a storage system, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because obviously there's no point in bringing it back and forth. I mean, like, the amount of time you're going to be spending and money and all that, of like sending tools over. But yeah, I think it's just basically like a little storage place that they keep it.
I have visions of it being like Raiders of the Lost Ark. They're out the door and there's a gold bling and it's all this like nice shiny moulds sat in a room,
To be honest, that is probably the way it is, because obviously you're just going to be spending loads of money and stuff like that. If you're
shipping them around, and that's basically they're not light.
It's a bit risky shipping them around.
It's not going to go in a jiffy bag, is it?
I was about to say, you can't get them in a jiffy bag, can you? Post office, but
I mean, like, they weigh about half a ton to a ton.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly.
I think people don't realise that the tooling itself, my side of it being more of an engineering background, the tooling is, I think, a work in art. I tell you what I do like is when you manufacturers, and you should do it as well, release the photos of the tooling, because it gives, I think, people a great insight to the work that goes into it. Because when you see, I know technically it's a mirror reverse, but you see the tooling of it and that detail in the tooling. And obviously all of your work is now in 3D as well for the first time. You can physically see it instead of it being on a screen or in CAD. You know, it must be quite rewarding to actually see it like that, let alone when it's got, you know, slammed together and injected, you know, because the tooling is amazing.
Yeah, this follows on a question that you were saying about riveting as well, isn't it? So like the main reason why we don't do it in like 70 seconds is just because how we were saying before is that our tooling isn't as expensive and stuff like that as other manufacturers. So we kind of have a sort of limit of what we can achieve in terms of the rivet sizes and panel lines and all that sort of stuff. You know, that sometimes I think it's pretty good now. Compared to when it was before, but obviously comparing it to like other manufacturers, it's still a bit behind. But then you got to think about the tooling costs.
Oh, I mean, I've often said it when you do look at, especially when you look at the larger kits, and it's got recessed panel lines that are incredibly fine and fully riveted. I think what people don't realise is that from a tooling point of view, all of this is raised.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
to do tiny pins in there, which are almost probably invisible to the human eye. You know, the machinery involved for doing such delicate work like that is almost surgical, you know, and that comes at a very heavy price, you know. And,
I mean, like sort of how you guys were talking about the nippers and stuff like that, God hand and all that. I mean, like like how fine the edge of the blades are, and you guys have snapped it and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like we're talking about molds when they come together. I mean, like pressure on them is like in the about 100, sometimes can be hundreds of tons of pressure of molds coming together. I mean, like these pieces of rivets and stuff like that, they're like 0.1 mil of metal. And it's ridiculously thin. I mean, like the nippers and stuff like that, those God hand ones and the display ones, how you guys were saying, on the end of them, they go to a lot more thicker. It's just like they've been broken as well, and that's just cutting normal plastic. But when you've got amount of pressure and all the heat and that's applied and the molten plastic that's being poured in, it does have an effect on it and stuff like that. So obviously,
and the longevity as well of the molds, because obviously these molds you want to get your money back on now, because that's where all your money's gone into technically that part of it. So this has got to go on for years continuously, every now and again, being dragged out, handled, which they don't like being handled as well until it's in the machinery. And then obviously, I think that's what people don't, you know, as I say, it's difficult for me because from an engineering background, I really appreciate that type of stuff. You know, that's my kick, you know, that's my little thing for it. But I think if you're not, you'll never realise all that effort that's gone into that bit, and the cost of it and the materials as well. This isn't just a cheap block of alley. You know, you know, the metal that is incredibly expensive. The billets they build, you know, do them out of, you know, and you know, and then people say, "Well, I'm not paying 18 quid for that," and you know, you know how much the molds are for that on its own. It's crazy. So, sorry, go on, Nate. What else we got?
Tim's asked a question about the Spitfire. He's been looking at the screw shots on Workbench. Why did you do a second wing upper for the clipped version?
Oh, because so on 48th scale, if you look at the Mark 14, there's a little clear part and everything for the little edge of the wing. But on 72nd scale, it gets way too thin. I mean, like 48th is more or less a limit in terms of the wing of the material thickness. So the reason was that was probably my best solution, I think, was to do just two different wings, because if you just the material gets way too thin on the end. That's all it was. That was the reason for it. So yeah, you can see, if you can kind of compare it to the 48th one, the little end cap that's on the clipped wing, that's a separate piece on the 48th version, and that's probably the limit in terms of the part thickness and stuff like that. And trying to locate it as well, even if it was moldable, its location is not going to be easy. I think Edward can do it. I think Edward done it as separate pieces, but that's obviously, they have a lot of, how we were talking about before, their tooling is a lot more refined and stuff like that, and a lot more expensive. They can get more out of it. but it's just the main thing it was that it was getting too thin, and obviously how we were talking about before, thinking ahead of it as well, thinking ahead in time as well, about how easy it is going to be to manufacture, avoiding how short shots and stuff like that. What's the point of making something so thin if you know that it's going to be difficult to manufacture? So yeah.
So I was just having a quick look. There was a good video about injection molding, and I've all about it. And it wasn't model making related, but it was just talking about how the process actually works. And we were saying like the hundreds of pounds of pressure that rams into it. I can't actually find it off the top of my head, but it's a very interesting video on YouTube. Talks about how injection molding actually works. So it's not kit related such, it's just a general one of it, but it's very interesting. They talk about tooling, injection molding process and everything that goes through it. I think Edard did a video about their injection molding as well a few years ago now, but I'll have to see if I can find that one.
Yeah.
I'm quite glad not to have to put those little wing tips on in 72. It's just getting them straight. You can end up having to sand away detail trying to get a good join. Patrick, while we're talking about moulding, do you know what metal or alloy is being used for the mould?
No, I know it's a form of steel, I believe, but I think
they tend to use a very, very high carbon steel, isn't it? It's as I say, it just goes back from my old life, but it's got incredibly high carbon content, which makes it very, very expensive.
That's what makes it expensive, the high carbon and stuff like that. So, I know some of them have like aluminium and stuff like that, but obviously the higher quality metal, the more expensive it is.
And then Richard asked, back to the designing now, do you use any VR technology during the CAD design process?
VR?
I think it's maybe a headset.
Virtual reality?
No.
It's all just
I think it's smaller. If you were doing one-to-one scale stuff, then yeah, you could then sit in your cockpit and just have a look around and see what it's like. But I think for the smaller ones, I
think probably the closest out for VR is probably scan data. That's probably the closest we're going to get to VR.
And then Keith's asked the last question, I think, that I've spotted, is as model makers now, would we prefer, or would we mind paying a bit extra for a kit, knowing that it's easier to build? I think I probably wouldn't mind paying a bit more for a nice, easy to build kit.
Yeah, I'll probably say that as well.
Again, I think, that's, you're back then to your, obviously to pull away from Airfix mode, but if you look at the AMK F14 to the Tamiya F14, I think that's quite a good sort of analogy, because the AMK one I don't think goes together as well as the Tamiya one, but the Tamiya one's 40 quid more expensive. So how far do you want to go, isn't it, to to make it easier to build to the point where you're like, I'm not paying that, especially if you've got, from a detail point of view, you've got not much in it,
Yeah, so it's not 40 quid, maybe a tenner. yeah,
that's it. Then you're into that realm, because to one person, 5 quid, I'll give it a margin of. To somebody else, they might say 50 quid, for a nice, easy build and stuff like that. But often when people say to me, one of the biggest questions we get from the live shows and all things like that, and just people in general, they'll say to me about, what would you build? I want to build a modern 1/48 scale aircraft. What do you suggest? My next question is always the same: what's your budget? Because if you've got a high budget, then I would say the Tamiya F16, something nice like that, because it's a great kit, falls together, no problem at all. You enjoy it every step of the way. Or like you say, the Tomcat or something else like that. But if you're on a budget, then you're going to be looking at other items and things like that, because like Airfix, it has its place in the market and it has its price point in the market. And you guys obviously work to a certain price within reason, I assume, and that's your sector of the market. It's not like Airfix are out there producing, as you say, the Wingnut Wings or Tamiya or whatever, because as I say, they've got bigger budgets, but you're going to pay a lot more. Your Zucamori, for instance, and stuff like that, you're paying more for those kits than you are other people. So, that's always that thing, isn't it? How much more do you want to pay for a simpler build or an easier build?
Yeah, Keith's put a £5, not 40 quid down.
Yeah. And it is. I think that's the thing. I think where a lot of people, you know, you can't just look at a kit manufacturer from a detail point of view, for instance. Because classic example, there we go. Fly, limited run. It's rough to touch, the molds, you know, you've got various things. There's no locating pins in it. There's no detail on the insides. It's all there, but it's very much going to take a little bit of work to get it together. You are going to have to use filler and all the rest of it, you know, but you can pay quite a bit for it because it's a limited run. So it's not producing thousands and thousands of them and various things like it. I don't know how big Fly is as a company, you know, but I'm assuming they're not massively, you know, stretched with hundreds of staff and all the rest of it. But, you know, that's the thing, isn't it? You've got some limited runs, can be quite expensive by their nature, but Airfix are what I would call mainstream. You know, they're always there. They are the constant. They shift a lot of items at the end of the day. But I have to say, you're still going in the right direction. Still going up there. And I say, that's a beautiful, beautiful kit. And it does seem to be with every kit that you guys are releasing, they genuinely, and I'm not here just blowing sunshine up your ass because you sat in front of me, but with each one, seriously, they are getting better. And, you know, like me, Matt, the guys, we've all been building Airfix recently. You know, obviously like the Buccaneer is a great kit. And considering you were saying it's a complicated aircraft, but actually it goes together really well, you know. You say that when you go back through all your stuff like the Hunter, again, great aircraft, different way of doing the wing. It works though, that's the thing. It gives a very nice way of doing it and stuff like that. And again, with this little guy as well, with the engine detail that's in there, with the cockpit detail, and you know, we're assuming other versions of it coming out as well later down the line, it's going to be one of those long-lived kits of the best of 1/48 scale. And that's nice to have you guys there now, almost, that if you wanted to do a Hunter, for instance, then yours would be the first choice. You know, you're not stretching out for everybody else's, like the Academy one or someone else like that, because yours is superior to the Academy one now. You know, and as you say, things like this. So as it's quite nice, as these kits are being released, they're becoming the one you'll go for. You know,
and that's another thing where it comes to product choice. When you're researching and thinking about what product you want to bring out, you
absolutely.
want a product where you think about a sort of subject and be like, okay, that's the one that you want to get. I mean, like, there's always this. I mean, like F-16, you get the Tamiya F-16 in 1/48. If you want the F-14 or something like that, you go for the Tamiya, or now you're saying AMK one. Like, there's one or two companies or kits that you go for, and that's how we aim for when we come for our release. If you want to do a 1/48 Tiger Moth, you get the 1/48 Airfix Tiger Moth. Same with the Hunter as well. Like, you kind of have, for example, the Rebel 1/48 Tornado. That's the go-to one. Like, there's always, you want to bring out a kit which is the go-to one.
Absolutely.
That's the element subject. That's the main thing. That's what you want to aim for. That's what we aim for in terms of like when we bring out a kit. That's the go-to one. That's what you want to make it.
So my last little thing for you guys, clearly, because we have been doing, as you know, a lot of Matchbox kits recently. Will you be releasing soon with your 72nd scale armour and things like that, bases, like the Matchbox ones has? Because we've been saying how great they are. See, you guys missing it. You should get someone making little bases, injection moulding bases for them, so little display bases like the old Matchbox kits do. Because we were saying that it's amazing when you look at the members who have been building them, and like Matt did one and all the rest of it, the quality of these little bases that were all done in the 70s to put your little bits of armour on in your vehicles, they stand up and they're just as good today as they were back in the 70s. So that's it. Airfix needs to do bases again. So what we need, in-flight stance, bring them back then, and then obviously bases for armour. That's it.
I'll pass that on.
Pass that one on, because that will bring you guys. That's it then. You're all round. Be sorted. So yes, right. Are we all done? Did?
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
so
we are.
We've definitely gone over tonight. Anything else you want to add, Pramjit? Anything?
No, I'm all good.
Are you all sorted? If all the people in chat are all happy, we hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. Don't forget, because we've got to give them a shameless plug, because no one knows it's on there, and I can't even find it on your site, is the obviously the Workbench series. Don't try and find it on Airfix website, because you can't. because I looked before we came on air and couldn't find it anywhere. But if you put in Google Airfix workbench, you'll come up with these, and then obviously you got the workbench. Once you're in, it's a doddle. You can get around them all. But again, they've got obviously ones down in here. And how many times a month do you update it?
A new one is every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. That's it. So as you say, we've got every 2 weeks down in here. So there we go. Ooh,
There's the sprues.
look, sprues. Ooh. Are they your test shots?
Yeah, test shots, yeah.
Very nice.
Go down a bit, there's a built cockpit.
Oh,
Yeah, I done that one. That one looks pretty cool actually. I was quite happy with that. I just done that as a little on like a Friday afternoon or something like that.
ooh. Look at that.
There it is.
There it is.
Cool.
Getting good at his modelling, like, isn't he?
Not bad, is it?
There
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
72 scale as well.
It is.
Remember how
That's the
small
thing.
that is?
When I look at it, I think 48, but you say it's not.
Hey, look.
Ooh.
That's what Matt's looking forward to.
Yeah.
It is. You're absolutely correct. It is. Yeah.
Even
I
better
am.
if it had a little base.
I tell you what, Pranjit, I'm actually, doing that little Matchbox wefts thing, the little 76 scale or whatever.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to the Scammell and stuff that are coming out. And I was looking at the Cromwell and because the Cromwell's pretty. Was it the Sherman actually, not the Cromwell? The Sherman was quite a new tooled one, isn't it? And the King Tiger. Yeah.
No, the Tiger.
The Tiger.
What scale? 72nd or 35th?
7
Yeah, Tiger 1 and Sherman. The Sherman one looks wicked. Again,
Yeah.
that's done by the same designer who done the Tiger Moth and MiG-17. He's got a very good finesse for getting the detail.
Yeah.
He's got like he's got that eye for detail, and you can see that in his kits, like the MiG-17, the Tiger Moth, and the Sherman. I mean, like, yeah, you'll enjoy the Sherman because the detail on the hull and everything is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm going to have a bash at them because I was thinking with like 35th, but I really enjoyed doing the little Matchbox kit, and I'm thinking, well, I could do something new. I'd prefer, have a go at something new in the smaller scale.
Yeah.
And yeah, I will. I'll definitely, I'll have a blast at them. But yeah, I like the Scammell. I just like the Scammell anyway, so that's definitely one I'm going to have a blast at in the little scale. So. Can I just say something before we pack in? I did see something from what Roger had put up on chat, so I don't want to think he's ignoring me. I'm going to have a word about this with Phil tomorrow, and we'll probably on the show we're going to cover why it's costing the postage it's costing and why it's doing this, that, and the other, so people know, because I'm getting a lot of questions about it, to be honest, and I am aware of it. And I am refunding where it needs to be refunded. So don't get me wrong, as in, we've been through this a few times, haven't we, for over postage costs and stuff, and how it works and why it is this, that, and the other. So what we'll do tomorrow is on the show, when we do it on the roundup tomorrow, we'll have 10-15 minutes of explaining why it is what it is and how it calculates it. So the cost, So everybody's pretty clear on it of why it's happening. So not us trying to rip you off with postage, because that is not the case one bit, one iota, and we'll discuss it tomorrow. So this is not the show what we wanted to cover it on, so we'll do it tomorrow. So
we can do that, definitely. No problem at all.
Brilliant.
Lovely. Well, I'd like to thank Pramjit again for coming in and doing this.
Thank you.
We'll get you in 3 weeks' time. You could be our
Yeah.
one every 3 weeks. We'll get him down and saying, when this is all sorted, I'm taking you out for dinner and we can do a proper interview down here and do the show and tell and everything. But this is a great way of doing it. But thank you very much for sparing your time and your insight and everything else like that as well. As always, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you to the guys. Thank you to Nathan for keeping an eye on the chat and everything. Cheers, mate. And to Matt as well. And obviously for you guys at home for watching along, don't forget you can see the review of this is up with you right now. Obviously it's up on the site, social media and all the rest of it. Shameless plug, but it is available in the PM store. And then tomorrow you will have, I'll put it up in the morning, you're going to have the Fly Bristol 170 freighter. That will be up with you as a review. And you'll also get, you just about see it down in here, the last part of the MiG-23 build. So that's all done. It's going to be up with you tomorrow, so you can see all about putting this all together, getting it up there and all of that. And I'll take some proper pictures of the little Trojan, who's all finished now as well, so I'll get that photographed and up and everything. So we'll be up with you at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Matt, are we doing?
Yeah, 3, yes, mate. Yeah.
Between 3 and 5 tomorrow for a live show, and obviously we'll be talking about what's happened this week, all the bits and pieces, postage, and obviously all the questions and everything that you want to post up, and we'll cover it like that. But thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure as always, and happy modelling. Take care, and say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
You've all got to wave for a bit because I need to find the off button.
Wave.
Bye.
Wave.